Top of the morning to you. I hope you're all fine and dandy and staying ahead of the game. Remember, it is a game, and each one of us must play a part. Welcome. I'm going to do a little reading today from the book Combs Beaumont, The Great Conspiracy, or The Great Deception, and I'll put a link to the book in this video. The link will take you to a site, WeTransfer, and there'll be a PDF link there for anyone who wishes to download it. But first of all, I want to take a look at this verse today. We're looking at a number of versions. We have the King James version, we have the New King James, the American Standard, but it's one, and so on and so on. But we have, I'm looking at this one verse in particular. I know when I was in Christianity, I found myself using this verse to justify why I was a Christian when I was a Christian, and it's from this verse, Acts 11 verse 26. So I'll read the various translations, or the various versions, and then we'll jump into the reading of Combs Beaumont's book regarding Antioch and where the origin of Antioch is. Or the original Antioch is. So, the King James Bible, Acts chapter 11 verse 26 says, "And when he found him, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves within or with the church, and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch." So that was the King James Bible. So the New King James, "And when he had found him, he brought him to Antioch. So it was there for a whole year they assembled with the church, and taught a great many people. And the disciples were first called Christians in Antioch." So this is the verse I want to highlight, where we get the term Christians. They were first called Christians in Antioch. Now, the term Christian doesn't mean what we believe it to mean now. So American Standard, same sort of thing. I'm not going to go through every one of them. And now I'm going to take you to Combs Beaumont's book. And from the book, we will read about Antioch, the famed Antioch. Where was Antioch? Where is the biblical Antioch? Antioch was especially famed in the annals of the earliest Christianity. The name of Christian was first adopted there. And so we just read that in the book of Acts. The name of Christian was first adopted there. St. Luke was reputed to have been born there, and St. Paul and St. Barnabas remained there a considerable time, preaching the gospel to the neighbouring Gentile cities. And they baptized their converts in its river, the Orontes. St. Peter was also in Antioch, and some accounts claim that he was its bishop for 7 years. According to Metaphrasis, he preached the gospel in Babylon and in Britain. It was said that he died in Rome, and that Constantine built a church over his tomb, later the Vatican. But although the papal authorities maintain this claim to the present time, his death and burial have never satisfactorily been established. The Romans, on their entry into Syria, occupied Antioch and made it their military headquarters, until they later selected Caesarea in preference. Vespasian, well established in British annals, settled a Roman colony in Antioch prior to his war with the Jews, and accorded it the honour of Colonia. St. John Chrysostom, who was well acquainted with the Druids from personal contact, was Bishop of Antioch in the 4th century AD. Confusion, so rife in regard to the sites of these early Christian centres, is added to by reason of the fact that Seleucus built another Antioch in Asia, on the borders of Pisidia and Phrygia, which was also made a colonial by Augustus, but was given the name of Caesarea. It may be mentioned here that despite close search and survey at various times in Asia Minor, no satisfactory evidence has yet been able to produce sites of either of these Antiochs, which applies indeed to other alleged early Christian sites, in which is now Asiatic Turkey. Volney, the traveller who made prolific search of the Syrian Antioch, identifies it as a ruined town built at the foot of a hill, but its only evidence of antiquity was part of a wall built by the Crusaders. Moreover, Syrian Antioch was erected on top of a high hill. Antioch in Syria, I claim, to have been the original and ancient city of Lincoln. There is a venerable saying to the effect that Lincoln was London and York shall be the fairest city of the three, a saying hoary with age. At all events, there is no doubt respecting the fairness and importance of Lincoln in an early period. The first traceable city comprised an area of nearly 40 acres on the summit of a steep hill, and within its walls occupied an almost perfect square 440 yards in length by 425 yards in breadth, protected on three sides by a broad, deep fosse, in places 80 feet wide, while fourth side a precipice cliff, offering an impregnable defence. Its ramparts faced with stone were from 20 to 23 feet in height and from 10 to 12 feet in thickness. In the same way as Antioch, it was divided into 4 quarters, one being allotted to the Jews also at Antioch. Its castle and principal buildings stood on the summit of this steep hill, and originally the river Trent flowed at its feet, as in the case of the Orators of Antioch. The surrounding region possessed many ornate Greek or Roman villas, as portions of tessellated pavements have been revealed. Its main highway, Ermine Street, passed through its centre from London to York, and it was to continue to the very north of Britain at Caithness. A separate gateway entrance to its 4 quarters. How many Roman legions may have been quartered there remains uncertain, except that the lower part of a large colonnade in the centre of Bailgate disclosed tessellated pavements, altars, monuments and tombstones, the latter mostly related to soldiers of the 9th Legion, which 9th Legion served with Vespasian in 69 AD on his proclamation as emperor after the death of Galba, when he sent to Britain for soldiers. He was about to conduct the war against the Jews, but left Britain in consequence of the imperatorship, leaving his son to carry on the campaign. Vespasian had been active in Britain for some considerable time before he left to protect his interests after the death of Nero. Eutropius says vaguely that he encountered the Britons 30 times, and Suetonius states that he reduced 2 very strong tribes, 20 towns, and the Insula Vectus, and fought 30 battles against the enemy in the reign of Claudius. Nero says Josephus found no one but Vespasian equal to the task of conducting the war against the Jews. He continues, he was also a man that had long ago pacified the West and made it subject to the Romans. He had also recovered to them Britain by his arms, which had been little known before. Vespasian, however, did not conduct the siege of Jerusalem in AD 70, although Nero sent him at the end of 66. For nearly 3 years he delayed taking active steps, hoping to subdue them without great bloodshed. This fact was referred to by Titus himself when he had overthrown the Jews and reprimanded them severely. In the course of his speech he spoke as follows: "At this time my father came into this country, not with a design to punish you for what you had done under Crestius, but to admonish you. For had he come to overthrow your nation, he had run directly to your fountainhead, and he immediately laid the city of Jerusalem waste, whereas he went and burnt Galilee and its neighbouring parts, and therefore gave you time for repentance." As I contend in the reconstruction of past history and geography, Lincoln was Antioch, was made a colonial by Vespasian, and was the headquarters or praetorium of the Romans until it was superseded by York. Professor Freeman stressed the importance of this honour by observing the high rank held by Lincoln among Roman cities, which it shared only with Cologne. Cologne and Lincoln are cities kindred in origin and name, added Freeman. However, Professor Freeman was in error, for York became the principal colonia pre-Flavia, according to Pliny, who says that Vespasian settled a colonia in Caesarea under that title, whereas Lincoln was Colonia Flavis Caesarenis of Caesarea in that province, which Colonia Prima intimated that York was the first or principal colony instituted by Vespasian, for Flavia was his family gens. York, originally Babylon, became Caesarea in Augustus's reign. If moreover the ancient Antioch in Syria were the earliest centre of Christianity, the same can definitely be claimed of Lincoln. It possessed many churches and priories from an early time, including the Priory of St. Catherine, whence even bishops of the early church walked barefoot to Temple Brewer, a renowned circular edifice, like the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, built by Constantine in the present Jerusalem. The early Christian churches were circular. Temple Brewer was strongly fortified, having embattled towers, and was guarded by buildings. The Templars had many preceptories besides Temple Brewer. Bishop Remigius, the first Norman bishop, built the present cathedral, founded at Leprosarium, and made Lincoln the centre of the vast sea. Paulinus, who was Bishop of York for a short while in 625, baptised a large number of converts in the Trent at Segolocum, including the governor named Beressa and his family, according to the Venerable Bede. Segolocum, now Littlesborough, lies on the Trent near Lincoln. Was the Oratons of Antioch the same as the Trent? The two names are closely related, one being the Greek and the other Saxon. It was seen that the river was considered more sacred. There seems to be no doubt regarding the former importance and wealth of Lincoln as an inland port. William of Malmesbury describes it as the mart of visitors by land and sea. Its canal system is said to have been of ancient origin and of great commercial value, while its sea facilities were such that it ranked as the fourth most important maritime city in the reign of King John. Another light is thrown on ancient Lincoln by its highways, for such not only indicate its historic importance to transport, with roads passing through from north to south and to west, and also to the ancient military movements when chariots were used in large number, and a great deal of country with thick forest in parts, sometimes impassable. The most important was Ermine Street, the famous straight thoroughfare, from London to the utmost north. As it enters Lincoln, it is still named the Strait, which recalls the event recorded in the Book of Acts, when Aeneas, a disciple of Damascus, was told, "Arise and go into the street," which is called the Strait, and inquire in the house of Judas for one called Saul of Tarsus. It is very applicable because in this reconstruction of the past, Damascus, the great commercial mart and port, stood on the site of present London. It was traditionally founded by Uz, the son of Aram, hence was Syrian, and famed of ancient days for its passing trade, wool, wine, corn, and manufactured goods. In the time of St. Paul, it had a large Jewish population. Evidence to show that London was originally Damascus is given in this book in Appendix A. Another most important highway was between Lincoln and Seaton or Axmouth, a significant fact when the circumstances are released. It passed through Chichester and Bath to the once important southern port, the original Sidon. Transport from the south could join Ermine Street at Lincoln and proceed further to the north. The Romans may have improved and repaired these long straight highways, of which no fewer than 15 proceed from London alone, but mostly they were constructed long before their day. Geoffrey of Monmouth says that Belinus built straight roads of stone and mortar, and Thucydides says that the Macedonians did likewise, a matter of special interest when it is proved that their original home lay in northern Scotland, from Inverness to Perthshire. The Atlanteans also built long roads, and that points us to the period before the flood. As they used chariots, such highways were essential. These ancient thoroughfares certainly speak to the antiquity of the ancient British civilization.